you. Thanks to the organizers for having me on, Dr. Sapru, Dr. Behani, and Dr. Kaul, and thanks to all my fellow co-panelists. To understand why Trump is probably the best president we've seen in a very, very long time, you have to understand exactly how bad Obama actually was. For starters, when was this sort of bipolar hegemony between Washington and Beijing, the G2, the group of two so-called, which alarmed everybody, the European allies and especially India, because he was essentially proposing throwing India under the truck for this sort of uh, imaginary rapprochement that America was going to have with China. Then he did a complete 180-degree U-turn and decided to rebalancing or reorientation or whatever it was called, which never materialized because his focus was always on Russia and Europe. And then, of course, when Japan had its dispute with China over the Senkaku Islands, the Diaoyu Islands, as the Chinese call them, he also pulled the rug from under their feet and threw them under the truck, saying, well, if Japan initiates hostilities, even in self-defense, we're not going to support that. Our alliance only comes into play when Japan is attacked. And obviously the Diaoyu or Senkaku Islands being disputed, it was left up to anybody's guess of what America would do. So he undermined allies, he undermined trust, and he fell for this thing of, this very socialist trap of taking on liabilities. You think that money falls out of thin air, money just grows from trees, and went on taking on these weak states that created more problems than they brought onto the table. Now, this is where Trump has been very different. First of all, he makes everybody pay for their share on the table. Second, Indians love, we love victimhood in a sense. So everybody talks about 1971 when America sent the 7th Fleet against India. Not one Indian commentator wanted to comment that when during this entire Galwan crisis, these fatal clashes that we had with China, where 20 of our soldiers died, Trump immediately sent 2 aircraft carrier groups into the South China Sea to divert Chinese attention there, right? That is the most forceful show of action that any American president has ever taken in support of India, period, over the last 70 odd years of Indian independence. The third important thing that Trump has done is that, he's also used Netanyahu and Israel to sort of cajole, as part of their alliance against Iran, to cajole Saudi Arabia away from this sort of radical ideology. And the net result of that has been that between Trump and Netanyahu, they've essentially moved Saudi Arabia, which was implacably against India for the last 60, 70 years, into, for all effects and purposes, an Indian ally. So, he's delivered on so many fronts. These aren't direct achievements, but they are huge achievements that any American president should be proud of, that no American president in the past has been able to do. But this is also a larger issue where we see Republicans are generally a lot more pro-India than Democrats are. You look at George Bush Jr., he rammed through the nuclear deal in 2008. And the tactics he used were quite brutal. In one instance, it's there in one of these books by the Austrian Foreign Minister Ursula Plasnik. Condi Rice literally had her two guards sort of corner her because she was trying to avoid having a conversation, and she literally forced her back to a wall and forced her to vote for India during the NSG exception to India during the nuclear deal. On the other hand, you look at Obama's approach to India. When India applied for Nuclear Supplier Group NSG membership, he was just very blasé about it, yeah, let it be, whatever. He doesn't put his heart into the relationship. Ash Carter, on the other hand, did some good, but it was always, one step forward, 2 steps back. I'd all urge you to read this fantastic US War College, the Marine War College paper that came out. Defense is from Mars and state is from Venus. You all remember the movie Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus or something like that. It's sort of a spin on that. And basically, defense is full of Republicans in a sense, and Venus is full, Democrats. State is full of Democrats in that sense. And this is why we feel that, Trump is great because all he's interested in is tangibles, tangibles, tangibles. Hard deliverables. There is no room for, mucking around with him. There is no room for mind games. There is no room for any of that. And Democrats, on the other hand, all we're seeing is they're all about airy-fairy ideas, no tangibles delivered. And in fact, quite the contrary, what we've seen is a lot of Democrats have taken an extremely hostile position to India. Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, especially Ilhan Omar amongst all of them. And this is also pushing Joe Biden into this entire anti-India camp. So, there is no doubt. First of all, Trump has been the best president for India for a long time. And second, Trump seems to understand foreign policy and defense policy a lot better than all these spoon-fed by expert zombies who keep coming up on this stage. Finally, I'm just going to end with this thought. Unfortunately, whether we like it or not, Indian Americans are mostly very well educated in urban concentrations where the pressure by wokes to fit in and vote against Trump is so high. That somehow needs to be broken, and we need to stiffen their spine in order to do that, because they live in fear today if they support Trump. So we need to get the message out about how pro-India Trump actually is, probably the most pro-India president we've ever had in history. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhijit.